지난 1월 6일 인핸스드 게임의 회장 디수자와 줌 미팅을 통해 인터뷰를 가졌습니다. 인핸스드 게임에 대해서 모르시는 분께서는 제가 이전에 관련해서 다룬 영상을 먼저 참고하시길 바라고요. 인터뷰 내용의 이해에 있어 설명이 필요한 부분들은 제가 최대한 첨언해봤습니다. 자, 그럼 바로 시작해보겠습니다.
Nice to meet you too. Great. Well, thank you so much for your support of what we're doing, but also for having me on your show, and I look forward to answering your questions.
경기력 향상 약물들에는 항상 찬반이 양립합니다. 누군가에게는 의료적으로 그것이 필요할 수 있겠지만 오남용에 대한 사고가 있었던 것도 사실이죠. 인핸스드 게임즈를 부정적으로 바라보는 사람들도 있을 거고 당신 역시 비난을 받을 수 있을 텐데 당신은 이들의 생각이 앞으로 바뀔 수 있다고 생각하나요?
Absolutely. I do think that as time moves forward and we see athletes who break world records safely and openly using enhancements, we will be in a much more honest environment. 44% of Olympians admit to using banned performance-enhancing substances, yet only 1% get caught. The drug testing regime doesn't work, and it's not a fair system. And so let's just be open and honest about what is already happening and not do it in the shadows. Let's not do it in darkness. Let's do it in the light, openly, with clinical supervision, so that it can be done safely and honestly.
당신은 올림픽이나 메이저 스포츠에서의 약물 사용 실태를 언급한 적이 있죠. 한국에는 그것을 놀라워하거나 부인하는 사람들이 많습니다. 그 실태가 어느 정도이며 이것을 파악할 수 있는 증거나 방법이 있나요?
Yes. So the International Olympic Committee and the World Anti-Doping Authority, in their own research, have studied how many athletes are using banned performance enhancements. And at the last track and field World Championships, they concluded that 44% of their athletes, this is their own research, have used banned performance enhancements. And so let's be clear that when we talk about banned performance enhancements, it's not just anabolic steroids, which is where most people's mind go to, but it's also lots of other supplements. 25% of the goods that you would buy in a GNC or other sports store can get you banned from Olympic competition, according to the Olympics' own research. And so performance enhancements are everywhere. And things like TRT, which has become very commonplace and very normal and accepted, will get you banned from Olympic competition.
갱년기를 비롯 테스토스테론이 비정상적으로 떨어진 남성에게 약물로서 그 수치를 올리는 치료법입니다. 해외의 경우 남성들에게 TRT는 매우 대중적인데요. 국내에서도 병원을 통해 합법적으로도 처방이 되지만 비교적 이용하는 인구가 적습니다. 미국 정부는 로드첸코프법을 만들어 올림픽이나 국제 스포츠 이벤트에서의 도핑을 더 엄격히 규제하고 있습니다. 그런데 정작 미국에서의 대표적인 프로스포츠에서는 그것을 느슨하게 관리하는데 왜 그렇다 생각하나요?
So the Roshenko Act only applies to sporting organizations that have voluntarily abided by the World Anti-Doping Code and only in international competitions. So Major League Baseball, for example, does not, the Roshenko Act does not apply to. Why is that? It's because they have a very powerful players union. They realize that their players are taking anabolic steroids in particular, and they don't want them to get banned for years. Think about people like Barry Bonds or Tom Brady, right? Imagine if they got kicked out for 4 years, right?
베리 본즈와 탐 브레이디 둘 다 높은 티켓 파워를 자랑했던 선수들이지만 약물 사용과 관련해서 이슈가 있었죠. 만약 그들이 올림픽처럼 약물 사용으로 4년의 출전 정지를 받으면 무시 못할 경제적 손실이 있다는 것을 의미하는 말이었네요.
At the same time, as you guys probably well know, UFC has very openly criticized the World Anti-Doping Authority and has now moved out of their testing net and created their own performance enhancement standards, which are very different. Includes allows the use of many substances that were hitherto banned. So the world is changing, and we are at the vanguard of that change. I look at communities of YouTubers and other influencers who are very open and honest, talking about performance enhancements, and I think it's a very positive social movement. I think about things like Men's Health magazine. They say they put people on the cover and they say 6-minute abs. This is the trick. This is the secret. They're never saying that you need drugs, right? So if anyone should be criticized here, it should be Men's Health magazine and other celebrities and influencers who are honest. Like I look at Hollywood actors, Chris Hemsworth, 90-day transformation. It's
Dwayne
not
Johnson.
honest. Dwayne Johnson, right? But I do admire people like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger has very openly and honestly talked about his use of steroids and how they contribute a bit to his success, but not all of it, right? And as you guys well know, it takes effort and time in the gym and discipline in the kitchen, plus scientific innovation to succeed.
만약 인핸스드 게임이 흥행했을 때 일반인들의 약물 오남용에도 영향을 미치지 않을까요?
No, because at our core is clinical supervision. I don't want athletes or the general public to order steroids online and to inject themselves. The goal is to encourage clinical supervision. Go talk to your doctor. Go get blood tests, EKGs, and do under full clinical supervision, right? And so many of my friends come to me and they say, "Oh, Aaron, where can I get steroids from?" I'm like, that's not the right question. The first question is go to your doctor, talk to them. And if you don't have a doctor that is knowledgeable about the space, there's a whole industry of performance medicine doctors who are very open and very honest and are willing to correctly supervise a performance therapy regime.
퍼포먼스 메디신, 우리에겐 조금 생소한 분야인데요. 성능의학 정도로 직역할 수 있겠습니다. 병을 치료하는 개념의 의학이 아니라 개인의 신체 기능과 수명의 향상을 목적으로 특히 스포츠 의학과 항노화에 초점이 맞춰져 있습니다. 예를 들어 아까 설명한 TRT도 이 분야이며 병원에서 맞는 항산화 주사도 개념상 퍼포먼스 메디신이라 할 수 있겠습니다. 인핸스드 게임에서는 선수들에게 건강검사와 관리를 해준다고 들었는데요. 모든 선수들에게 동등하게 지원되는 부분인가요?
Yes, so our objective is to be the safest sporting event in history. Drug testing is about fairness. It's not about safety. Lance Armstrong can't have the super steroids when all the other athletes don't have access to them.
한때 미국의 사이클 영웅이었던 랜스 암스트롱은 수년간의 약물 복용 사실이 밝혀지면서 희대의 사기꾼으로 몰락했는데요. 그는 한 인터뷰에서 당시 국제 사이클 연맹의 회장이 자신의 도핑 사실을 묵인하고 은폐해준 그런 배후가 있었음을 밝혔습니다.
And so how are we going to be the safest sporting event in history? It will be through pre-competition full system health checks, blood work with 120 plus biomarker analysis, echocardiograms, possibly even MRIs. And this is expensive. It will cost $5,000 to $10,000 per screening per athlete. And the Olympics and other sporting events don't want to do this because of cost. But we can do it and ensure that our athletes are healthy and safe to compete. Because ultimately, we don't want athletes to have a heart attack on international television.
건강 관리는 해주지만 사용하는 약물의 종류나 용량에 있어서는 전적으로 선수의 선택인가요? 만약 그렇다면 이것은 책임 회피로도 비춰질 수 있겠는데 과용량이나 고위험군 약물을 사용하는 선수는 어떻게 대처할 수 있을까요?
And that's actually the risk at the Olympics today. One gram of testosterone, well, that might be good if I take 10 or 100. And clinical supervision is the answer to this question. We face the same problem in everyday clinical medicine. Patients say, "Oh, I've got a cold," right? So instead of taking one pill, I'll take 10 pills. And self-medication is always problematic. And this is how the whole pharmaceutical and pharmacy industry is developed. Proper instructions, proper dosage, and a limited supply at any one point in time. And so ultimately, I do believe that individuals with free and informed consent should be able to make choices about their own body, but it's informed consent and really understanding what the opportunities and the risks are. But ultimately, there will be a safety standard to ensure that if an athlete is at risk, particularly cardiac risk, they will not be allowed to compete.
2012년 런던 올림픽에 남아프리카 공화국 한 선수가 의족을 착용하고 육상 경기에 참가했습니다. 이렇게 되기까지는 5년 동안 재판을 오가면서 논란과 갈등을 빚었는데요. 그의 의족이 물리적 테크 도핑이라는 주장도 있었습니다. 인핸스드 게임즈는 의족과 의수 등 인공 보철물이 허용되나요?
So initially, we are focused on pharmacological enhancements. However, we're very open to the idea of engineered enhancements. The world that we live in is one of great technology. So think about Apple's Vision Pro goggles, right? Won't that help an athlete throwing a javelin? And Elon Musk has Neuralink, a brain-computer interface, literally a brain implant. So wouldn't it be amazing to see athletes competing with real-time AI decision support? And so we are open to all technology, but the most important thing is creating a level playing field so that that technology is available to all athletes. It's done under clinical supervision, and we understand the risk and the opportunities. But the fundamental difference between the Olympics and the enhanced games is the Olympics are about the past. They're rooted in this ancient Greek ideology about natural sportsmanship. And that's fine. They're like an opera. And I love the opera, right? I love getting dressed up for this thing that hasn't changed for hundreds of years. But we're like a rock concert. We believe in the future. We believe in reinventing ourselves and always challenging ourselves. So as technology changes, we want to not fight against that, but always accept it. And so I look at the opportunity of AI, of advances in engineering, advances in biotechnology that will come in our lifetime. And at the end of the day, I think it will mean that we can overcome the limitations of our physical form. The gating factor of humanity is not our resources. It is not our know-how. It's actually these weak, feeble human bodies that we live in. Enhancements of all sorts are the solution. And imagine what it will be like if we can fully unlock both engineered, pharmacological, neurological enhancements and how that could change our world. It's almost like a cybernetic, futuristic world.
2012년 런던 올림픽은 132건의 도핑 적발로 올림픽 사상 역대 최고치를 기록했습니다. 그런데 그 이후로 적발 사례가 급감하는 추세를 보이고 있는데요. 이것이 실제로 약물을 사용하는 선수들이 줄어서가 아니라 검출을 회피할 수 있는 기술이나 물질들의 발달 때문일 거라는 해석이 있습니다. 이것에 대해서 어떻게 생각하나요?
The testing regime is completely out of date. So much so that I've had top officials from the World Anti-Doping Authority who are sort of anonymously whistleblowing to me about how ineffective their testing regimes are. If you think about it, if it was actually that roughly half of all Olympians have doped at some point in their life, you imagine 5,000 athletes getting banned from the Olympics, it would be the end of the Olympics. The Olympics does not really have the incentive structure to effectively ramp up the testing and give the World Anti-Doping Authority the budget that they actually need. This problem is only going to get worse and worse with the rise of artificial intelligence, because the ability to discover new compounds using the technologies of computational biology is only getting faster. New compound discovery, which are fundamentally ones that metabolize faster, that have a shorter half-life, which makes it easier to evade testing, is only going to make the problem worse for the Olympics. But the enhanced games are a solution for that, because if you're an athlete who wants to use enhancements, you can compete on our side, and if you want to compete naturally, you can compete on the Olympic side, and it becomes two very different worlds.
인핸스드 게임스의 종목 중에는 컴뱃 스포츠라는 것이 있습니다. 아마 이게 MMA일 것 같은데요. 개인적으로 저도 이게 가장 기대되는데 어떤 방식으로 진행될지가 궁금합니다. 그러니까 예를 들어서 육상은 예선부터 결승까지 하루 만에 한 사람이 여러 경기 참가할 수 있지만 이 격투기는 회복 때문에 일반적으로 3, 4개월 정도 텀을 가지잖아요. 때문에 토너먼트처럼 단기간 한 사람이 여러 경기 참여하는 것이 힘들 것 같은데 어떤 방식으로 진행될 예정인가요?
Well, in a very similar way to the Olympics conducts combat sports. So think about boxing is an Olympic sport. It is in a round-robin tournament structure. There's less recovery time. The matches are shorter. Proven methodology that has existed for a long period of time. But I understand your point about need for recovery time. But ultimately, just the design of the matches, you shorten the number of rounds in each match could make for an effective tournament style structure. One point that I always make is that the enhanced games will be physically a much smaller event than the Olympics. So the Olympics has like 10,000 athletes, most of whom who have no chance of medaling whatsoever. We are interested in only the athletes who have a potential to medal. And so instead of having 100 boxers competing from every country of the world, only have ones at our games who have the potential to medal, so maybe 15 to 20. And therefore, the tournament structure is much easier to implement in that way.
이렇게 큰 행사의 운영에는 스폰서십이 반드시 필요할 텐데요. 제 채널의 댓글 중에 인핸스드 게임즈의 스폰서는 제약회사들만 있을 거라는 농담도 있었습니다. 나이키와 같은 대형 스포츠 브랜드들이 바디빌딩 쇼에 스폰서하지 않는 이유가 기업의 전반적인 인식을 나쁘게 하기 때문이란 걸 본 적이 있는데요. 약물을 사용하는 쇼인 것이 부정적이라는 것인데 인핸스드 게임즈도 이와 같은 사례가 되지 않을까요?
Yes. Yeah. So I think traditional sports brands are not our target corporate sponsors. Our target corporate sponsors are those that believe in technology. Amazon Web Services, your OpenAI, if you're Neuralink, you don't want to sponsor old-fashioned sports, right? It's very expensive. It doesn't allow the opportunity to showcase technology. So the enhanced games will be a lot more like Formula One. You know, people support the Mercedes team, right? And they see, oh, I'm going to go buy a Mercedes car because the Mercedes team is doing well at Formula One. Therefore, the Mercedes car must be better. And so we see a world where the team structure isn't Team USA versus Team Korea versus Team Russia. It's actually Team Johnson & Johnson in partnership with Amazon, in partnership with Oxford University against Team Pfizer in partnership with Harvard University, right? Let's bring the organizations that believe in science, that believe in technology, that believe in an accelerated future, and give them an activation in sports that presently doesn't exist.
인핸스드 게임스에 참가한 누구도 건강에 이상이 생기지 않고 관련 사고가 만약에 안 일어난다면 약물 사용에 대한 긍정적인 데이터 수집도 가능할 것인데요. 이것을 종합해서 의학과 스포츠 발전에 기여할 수도 있지 않을까요? 혹시 그런 계획도 있나요?
Absolutely. So I've actually been interviewing for my chief scientific officer today. And our long-term plan is to become a pharmaceutical company because we will have access to the richest data set imaginable. Imagine thousands of athletes participating in our games and in qualification, getting blood tests, getting echocardiograms, other forms of imaging. And we have full understanding of their therapy stack and what works and what doesn't work. Because as you guys would know, the core problem for the performance enhancement world is good data. Should you be taking tren or dianabol or whatever substance, and how do they all work together? The data set is actually very poor. And so by being open and honest and gathering all of this data, we believe that we can then use this in a road towards novel compound discovery or existing compound application that would then lead to FDA approvals. Then we're selling fully legal, fully regulated, clinically verified performance enhancements that we would hope become sort of like the Botox for men. So women have cosmetic medicine, FDA approved cosmetic medicine that allows them to improve their appearance. Yet men have fewer options of FDA approved performance medicines that allow them to become more masculine and muscular. But that's ultimately what we believe that we can deliver to consumers, because just like Formula One, the technology that is being used to make the cars faster on the track goes out to the road. And when we break the 100-meter world record, the mile, or the marathon, the first question that everyone will ask is, what was he taking and how do I get it? As you would well know, one of the greatest problems facing developed economies all over the world is an aging population. Korea has one of the world's most aged populations. It should be, on a public policy level, an important driver to make our population stronger, faster, and younger for longer, because that's ultimately a road towards productivity. So artificial intelligence is projected to add $13 trillion to the global economy in the next decade. For every year we can reverse aging by, that is worth $40 trillion. You only need to look at the current race for the presidency of the United States. You have Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who are both sick and they are old and not very good at doing their job. But you look at someone like Robert F. Kennedy, RFK Jr., who takes TRT. He's doing pull-ups. You know, he's doing push-ups. He looks great. He's vigorous. Why is that? Because he's enhanced, and he's very openly enhanced. As our leaders get older, as our population gets older, the need for enhancements becomes much more pronounced.
인핸스드 게임즈의 홈페이지에는 모든 선수들에게 기본 급여를 제공한다는 내용이 있었죠. 급여 조달은 어떻게 이루어지고 성적에 따라 기본 급여도 달라지는지가 궁금합니다.
Yes, so that's a great question. The compensation structure is still being determined, but in general terms, it will not just be based on performance, it will also be based on social media reach. So if an athlete is middle of the road but has millions of followers, we will pay them more money, right? Because we want people who have distribution to participate in the games. Eventually, we hope that even to come to qualifying events will require a minimum level of social media engagement, because athletes aren't just to run around the track. They're there also to share a message with the world. And being good on the distribution side is also very important to us.
차후 종목들이 더 추가될 예정이 있나요? 있다면 어떤 것들이죠?
Number one, the core methodology for sports selection, television and social media impact with the lowest infrastructural delivery costs. There are some sports that I love, for example, velodrome cycling. I used to be a velodrome cyclist myself. But that requires building a $300 million facility, and there are very few of them in the world. And so that sport would not be included because it's very expensive to set up and has reasonably low impact. The sports that we intend to add are team sports. So as you see, all the sports that are listed for the first enhanced games are individual sports. And so, sports like basketball are very interesting. Football would be very interesting on an enhanced level. However, assembling teams requires a whole nother layer of bureaucracy and administration to support. So once we have run the first enhanced games, we've broken some significant world records using in the individual sports categories, then we will extend into team sports. And at the same time, we'll also start looking at expanding into engineered enhancements. So I have actually been approached by several robotics companies that are interested in entering full humanoid robots in the games. This is like a really interesting question. And they say, oh, can I build a robot to compete at the enhanced games? I said, well, you can't build a car to run the 100 meters. But if you build something that was a 6'3" 100-kilogram bipedal robot that looked like a human being to run the 100 meters, we'd be open to that. But it needs to compete against a human being on a level playing field, right? It needs artificial intelligence. It needs to be able to walk from the locker room to the track, to the finish line, to the medal stand, all without any cables or internet or human intervention. And that's actually a pretty hard engineering challenge. So I imagine, not in the first enhanced games, but by 2030, we'll see humanoid robots compete head-to-head against the best human beings. And I think that will be a very interesting analysis. Think about when Deep Blue, the chess-playing robot, the chess-playing computer beat Garry Kasparov. I know Korea in DeepMind and AlphaGo, yeah. So when will robots be as good as humans? The 100 meter is easy. The marathon, that might be 50 years away because of battery technology. Gymnastics, the pommel horse, these are really, really hard that robotics technology is nowhere near as good as human beings.
전속 선수에 대한 발굴 그리고 지원에도 계획이 있나요?
Yes. So we're in discussions with athletes. We've had about 400 athletes reach out to us directly, and we've done calls with them, chatted with them. Ultimately, the athletes are very interested in being exclusive with the enhanced games because they get a base salary. And female athletes in particular are interested because we're also going to offer health insurance. And so for American athletes, this is a big question, right? So if you're a Team USA athlete, you don't get health insurance. And that's a major question, particularly for female athletes. It's very compelling in our offering.
여성 선수들에게는 정말 중요한 부분이겠네요. 특히 여성이 약물을 사용할 때 더 취약할 수 있는 부분이 있을 테니까요.
They're way more vulnerable on health levels, on many, many levels. Offering health insurance and base compensation will fundamentally change the economics of the sporting world. You have the choice between making money at the enhanced games and not making money at the Olympics. I think it's a pretty easy choice.
중계는 어떻게 될 예정인가요? 개최지와 장소는 어디가 될 것이며 자세한 일정을 언제쯤 확인할 수 있을까요?
We are in advanced negotiations with broadcasters and venues. And by the time the Paris Olympics happens, you will see a very detailed schedule. The Paris Olympics, which happen in end of July, early August of this year, is the perfect opportunity for us to highlight the relevance of our movement. We will see lots of athletes potentially banned from competition. We will see world records get broken, and then those records get struck off the record books. And we will be there supporting those athletes and promoting the enhanced cause at the Paris Olympics.
참가 조건이 어떻게 되죠? 한국인도 참가할 수 있나요? 참가할 수 있다면 한국에서는 약물 사용이 불법인데 이것은 개인이 감수해야 되는 것인가요?
So let's be very clear. You do not have to take illegal drugs. You do not have to take legal performance enhancements. You can come compete at the enhanced games as a natural athlete. And so anyone is welcome, and they do not have to declare their status. Eligibility is open to absolutely everyone in the world. I always say that to compete at the Olympics, you have to be a good athlete and you have to be a good politician. You have to navigate the complexities of your sports federation and that bureaucracy. And we want to reduce all barriers, like the CrossFit Games, which has online qualification where you just post a video of yourself doing certain moves. We're going to be taking a similar online qualification apparatus where if you want to, say, run the 100 meters, you could literally just post a video of yourself running on a treadmill. Do that well, then you get a small travel stipend to come into a regional qualifier to show you can do that in real life. And then you pass at regionals, then you get selected for a competition and you get a full salary and all the other benefits.
저희 채널 댓글 중엔 인핸스드 게임스에 투자를 하고 싶다는 사람도 있었습니다. 그들에게 해줄 조언이 있을까요?
I'm pleased to say that we have closed a funding round for the world's top venture capital firms, which we'll be announcing in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to be a really extraordinary group of people. Some of the world's most famous investors have backed this project. But I do hope to take it public at some point and to become a publicly traded company like UFC or WWE or some of the other sports franchises so that all investors can participate in this. And we really do appreciate the support that we have received from everyone, whether it's content creators like yourself, it's athletes or investors, because it's a movement of people and it takes an immense amount of courage and bravery. So unfortunately, unless the people in the comments are running a large venture capital fund, they probably won't have an opportunity to invest in the early days. Otherwise, when we are a public company, I would be very keen to have them involved.
저는 올해 영상 촬영을 위해 해외에 다닐 예정인데 가능하다면 당신을 직접 만나보고도 싶습니다.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So I live in London. We'd be very pleased to have you come to the studio, come to headquarters and meet the team. So if you make it to London, please do let me know.
감사합니다.
Great. Thank you so 감사합니다. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your support of everything that we are doing. It wouldn't be possible without think of this like so much of the change that we've seen in our world. It's driven by social media, right? And the traditional media doesn't really understand this yet, but on social media, people are really starting to get it. And as you've probably seen, we've been on Joe Rogan a couple of times. And now it's really starting to pick up. So thank you so much. And Mr. T, if you make it to London, do let me know. Just drop me an email and we please meet.
바디알케미의 시청자들을 포함 한국인들에게 하고 싶은 말씀이 있나요?
Yes. So what I would say to the people of Korea, the traditional sporting world was designed by Europeans, right? It was designed by a bunch of European aristocrats 100 years ago. And they picked sports that suited Europeans, and they didn't really think about it on a proper global level. And so we are approaching this from a blank slate. Korea has always been at the vanguard of enhancements. So cosmetic surgery or cosmetic enhancements, Korea is the world leader. And with an aging population, Korea should become a world leader in performance enhancements too. And if we look at surveys around the world, the willingness to consider both cosmetic and performance enhancements is much higher in Asia than it is anywhere else in the world. Actually, India has the highest acceptance of both physical performance enhancements as well as neurological, intellectual performance enhancements. Let's use technology to build the future. Reservations about recreational drugs in Korea. But what I would say is that performance medicines are not recreational drugs. It's about making us healthier, faster, and stronger, and younger for longer. And that is an admirable thing. It is a good thing. Part of the enhanced movement is also changing societal attitudes and eventually laws so that these products become safe and legal and accepted. Great. Okay. You guys have a wonderful day.